All right, y'all, what up? Mr. Cruz here, kind of finishing up where we left off with copying regions. So we're trying to copy our regions now. So I said we could do this one of two ways. What I think was the simplest way is highlighting them, holding, like clicking and holding them, holding down the Alt button. Oh, I messed that up again. Holding down the Alt button and then clicking them and then dragging it off to the side. So that's one way that you can do it. Another way you can do it is you can select all the regions and you would hit Control C. Control C would copy those regions, and then you can just move your playhead to the very end of that region and hit Control V, and then Control V would paste it. It's kind of like just copy and pasting, like when you do in a document or in a Google Docs. So I would literally just do this like 5 or 6 times. And again, I can kind of keep an eye on my project here, and I see that I'm at 1 minute and 13 seconds. Well, maybe I want my song to be about 3 minutes long. So I would keep clicking it, and then bam. And now I've got enough. So I can go back here and I can listen to this. And let's say, all right, in the beginning, I only want the synth and the pad to play. So I would just go here and hit delete. So now, in the beginning of my song, it'll start out like this. And then the drums would come in. So then let's say that around this area, I want to take my synth out. And so on and so forth. So I want to take some elements out and then bring some elements back in just to kind of give the whatever music I'm working on a sense of excitement. Like it always has to change. You got to kind of keep your listeners on their edge, um, anticipating something different coming up next. You don't want to have the same 4 bars looping over and over and over again because that's just going to sound boring. Um, I also see that like I'm having to scroll. All right, actually, and I didn't mention this, but like you can just highlight a region and then hit backspace or delete to get rid of it. But you can kind of 2 finger click or right click to delete or do all this other stuff to it. Um, I've got a lot of regions here, and this is going to be a pain to like scroll back and forth. So what I have is the option to zoom out here. So I'm going to hit zoom out, and it's kind of going to squash this stuff so that I can kind of get a better sense of how big my project is, and I can kind of maneuver a lot easier between different parts or different sections of my song. Let's also say, I'm gonna zoom back in for a little bit. Um, let's also say that maybe there is a part of the song where I want to cut this part out because this part is too long. So, like I did earlier when I was cutting the playhead of my cutting the regions using the playhead, I would hit my split or my slice button, and then bam, I can select these, delete them, and then kind of select this stuff and like move it over. Or let's say I just want that part where like there's nothing playing at that moment before the beat kind of drops back in. Um, and now let's talk about effects. So adding effects to your songs. When you select your track, you have this 3 uh, context button or settings for whatever the track you're working on. You can add presets to it, but presets oftentimes add a bunch of stuff, and maybe you don't want to add a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe you want to add just a couple of things, or maybe 1 or 2 things. So I'm going to select down here where it says effects, and here is where I can add an effect. So you have a whole bunch of different ones, and we're going to go over all these later in a different video, but here's where you would add effects, and then you can kind of chain them and put them in certain order. So let's say I picked a preset of lo-fi vox. So I have a compressor, noise gate, and a distortion, but let's say I don't want this noise gate, so I can delete that. Or let's say I want the distortion to go first and then the compressor, so I can kind of just move that. So now it's going to go through this one first, and then it's going to go through this one, and then it's going to go through this one, and so on and so forth. Um, Along with all of those things, and also you can kind of full screen this so you can kind of get a better view of what you're looking at. But for now, I'm going to close this, and I'm actually going to delete these effects because I don't want to use them just yet, but that's just a preview of what you're going to be working on later. We'll go through those in another video. But this for now, this is how you would copy and paste certain regions. A last way that you can also copy and paste regions is if you selected all of the regions, you right click to hit copy, and then when you hit paste, it's going to copy the region to wherever you have that playhead. So you want to have that playhead exactly where you want it positioned, where you want to paste the regions that you just copied. So let's say I have this big blank open space and I want to copy my regions there. Well, actually, let's say I only wanted to copy the synth. So I would select it, right click it, then I would hit copy. And because my playhead is already there, I'm just going to pick any area and I'm going to hit paste. And it's going to copy in that filled section. And also notice that when you when you paste it to that section, it moves that playhead to the very end of it. So that, let's say I deleted this one and I deleted this one, it moves the playhead to the very end of whatever region you just pasted, so that when you hit paste again, you can kind of keep pasting. Oh shoot, I messed it up. I accidentally hit the wrong one. All right, hit this, copy. Now if I hit paste, boom. If I hit paste again, boom. And it's going to keep pasting that region over and over again towards the end. That's just kind of its easy, simple way of doing that. So that you don't have to hit copy and move the playhead, hit copy, paste, move the playhead, paste, move the playhead, and so on and so forth. It automatically moves that playhead to the very end of it. So the last thing that we're going to be talking about is counting bars. Counting bars here is it because we have a 4/4 time signature, we're going to go in fours. So that means we count 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. The numbers that you see here are usually going to represent the beginning of the next bar. So if I wanted a 4-measure loop, I have it selected here already because I see that it goes from 1 and it stops at 5. So if I were to move my playhead, where's my play? No. If I were to move my playhead here, my playhead at that moment when I hit play, it's going to start at the 5th measure. Of course, if I zoom out, I will see that those numbers will change, right? They're either going to get bigger if I'm zooming out, or they're going to get smaller if I zoom in. You can drag your cycle, your loop section from one end, or you can kind of do it like this. If I only wanted to repeat one section, so I can kind of work on that area, you can do that. But the important thing is that when we're counting bars or measures, we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's 1. Every time you count to 4, that's 1 bar. So if somebody were to say, like, okay, I want my intro to be 4 bars. I want my chorus to be 8 bars. I want the verse to be 12 bars. Then you would be able to understand that, like, okay, I have to count to 4 12 times, and then that's 1 bar. If I were to say, a 12-bar verse. All right. So that'll be it for today. Hopefully you guys are feeling more comfortable and able to create some dope stuff with what you've been doing so far. Next up, we will go over effects. Effects is going to take us a while to go over because there are a lot of different effects, and effects is pretty complicated, but they can be really, really cool and super duper creative and fun to be able to do once you're working with those. And then we'll work on talking about collaborators and how you invite somebody to collaborate with you, so that if they moved one region from here to there, when you open your session, you will be able to see that they have done something, or you guys can both work on this at one time. And then we'll also talk about publishing. But of course, all that's going to come after we've done effects, because effects is going to be a pretty long section to work on. All right. But for now, hopefully you guys are having some fun with this, doing some great things. And actually, another thing we'll talk about next time is importing from your Google Drive or from your desktop, how you can import files that I'll be providing for you guys. All right. Mr. Cruz, out.